Remember when Konami finally banned Vanity's Emptiness? And then they brought back fucking Imperial Order? Alright, today I just want to have a little talk about Floodgates, because they're an interesting point in this game, because they're that very unique type of card that just says no, that just shuts things down immediately. And we have cards like Ash Blossom that say no, but they're more of a, hey look, slow down, I'm going to take this one thing away from you. Whereas Floodgates, things like Anti-Spell, Fragrance, and Pendulums are just straight up, hey look, you're not playing the game, I am, let's call it here. And it's something I really don't like about this game, because I think that there are ways that they could do it better. I think with a little tweaking, they could make Floodgates a lot better. And basically what it comes down to is Floodgates just kind of seem like almost lazy card design on Konami's part, where instead of thinking about a way to put more effort and thought into the card for the players, they just went, hey, we'll make this card that does a blanket coverage, we'll just call it there. And it definitely just feels lazy on their part almost, and makes the game a lot lazier in turn, where instead of promoting thought, it just promotes, well, he flipped that, so I guess I lose. Now, probably the best point of Floodgates is they can help slower decks. This is kind of the same thing as Card Demise. People will say, oh, leave it around because it helps slower decks. But the problem is, although Floodgates may help slower decks, although, you know, some decks like take Raid Raptors, they can run Rivalry of the Warlords. That means, you know, decks that have to play multiple, you know, different types of monsters have a worse matchup against Raid Raptors. That means they have a higher chance of winning, even though they're a worse deck, which is nice. It's nice that there are things to help decks like that. But they can also help, you know, they can also help decks that don't need that help. Like, obviously, because Zoo was the only thing around, it wouldn't run something like Rivalry, but Zoo was all the same type of monster. It was an archetype designed like that. They could have easily just have said, well, besides like the XYZs, but later incarnations of Zoo where it was mostly just, you know, the Dryad and the Mrs. Radiant and things like that. Like, there could have been variants of Zoo that easily threw that in. There could have been, you know, True Draco, they can throw in Lose a Turn, they can throw in Anti-Spell, they can throw in all these Floodgates, and that, yes, they do help slower decks, but they're also taking these already overpowered decks and pushing them up even more and saying, hey, you're here, we could bring you up here. Whereas the decks are like, hey, you're down here, well, you can't even see it. Exactly. So I think a good example of this and a good way to look at it is with Lose a Turn. Now, Lose a Turn, obviously you activate it, that's it, your opponent, whenever they special something, it's effects negated, changes to defense, it just covers everything. But imagine if Lose a Turn had a stipulation where, you know, once or twice a turn, whenever your opponent summoned something, you got the chance to activate that effect. So instead of just blanket covering everything, instead of just making it kind of no thought, just, oh, well, there is still somewhere, you kind of have to play turns ahead. But imagine if instead of playing turns ahead and almost being kind of lazy, and you know, no thought, you just flip it, you're done, if it actually promoted kind of like, okay, they could summon, say, 4 monsters this turn, I can stop 2 of those, which ones do I need to hit, what are they going to do after, what am I going to do after? It promotes that deep thought and like professional almost kind of thought in the game. And I think that if they did that with certain cards, if they limited Floodgates, they weren't Floodgates but flood barriers, things that just like they stop a little bit but still let things do. That's why I really like cards like Ash Blossom, because again, it doesn't straight up stop everything, it just says, I'm going to stop a little bit of what you're doing and try to do it at the most optimal time to hurt your play the most I can. And it really promotes this skill and thought of the game that things like Floodgates just don't do. But with some tweaking, there could be ones that actually could do things like that, and I think that would make it a lot more enjoyable. So basically my overall point here is, and I think one way to sum it up, is cards should promote thought. You know, everything should promote ways to get better, ways players can think, different ways to use things. So the better you are, you can use things more. It's, I don't know, there's just so much in this game that says players that you don't have to think. There's so many cards in this game that just go, hey, you brought me out, you're good, like Masterpiece, Chaos Max, whereas, you know, other cards like Dryad, yes, they're still oppressive, but Dryad on its own is just one pop. You know, you have to think about where you want to put it, you have to think about what you want to hit. And I don't know, I think there's this end of it, cards that do that, there's this end of it, cards that don't, there's everything in the middle, but if we could just take the stuff that things that don't and just move them more into the middle. That'd be really nice. But anyway, I'm just starting to ramble on the same topics over and over again. So that was just something I kind of thought of and wanted to address. It's just an interesting way I think they could tackle future floodgates that I'd really like to see. I know they're not going to listen to me because I'm irrelevant and don't matter, but it'd be nice if they could just introduce something like that. That would be very, very cool and interesting indeed. But anyway, time for the usual plugs. First time doing these in a live video. Let's go. So I have a Discord. I'll have a link to that down in the description. Look at that. I'm a YouTuber. I'm pointing down. I'm such a YouTuber. But I'll have a link to that down in the description. It's a neat place to hang out, talk about Yu-Gi-Oh!, chat about some other things. If you're weird, you'll fit right in. It's great. I also have a Patreon, which will be linked down in the description. There's no pressure to actually support me on there. No usual content or anything will be gated off. But if you have a little extra give, it would be greatly appreciated. And I am thinking about throwing some extra duels that don't make it into the final cuts for deck profiles of the worst deck of all time series up on there as a little bonus for you guys, so you have a little bit more. But don't worry, again, none of the usual stuff will be gated off. It won't really gain you any special privilege or anything, but again, if you have a little extra give and like what I do, you know, it'd be appreciated. It'd be very greatly appreciated. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.